Sorry about the abrupt ending to that last video. I accidentally hit the wrong key and stopped the recording. So here we are creating our accessor method, and you'll notice that I'm getting an error in Visual Studio, and the only reason why I'm getting an error is because it's saying that not all code paths return a value. So you always have to return whatever value it is that you are setting your member as up here. So I'm just going to type in the keyword return, and then I can do student name. And what this will do, because I've added this accessor method in here, now I can come up here and you'll see that I have access to student name again, and that's going to return a string value. I can also create what's called a mutator method the same way, and that uses the keyword set. And in this one, we are just going to set the student name equal to value. Value is a keyword here that says take whatever is being passed in to this member and put it there. In Java, this is typically how you're going to see people doing variables, by using the public string get set and then using a private string to set the value, or using a private variable to actually store the value of that. Some of the reasons why we do this in programming is because we want to be able to do validation on data entry as we're going in here, to make sure it's a string, or maybe we want to check a value that's going in and set something else. We also, when we return it, we may want to do a calculation before we return it, and this allows us to do that. You may also see programmers declaring public variables like this. Public string, my string, get, set, boom. As you'll see, what I've got here is I've got a empty get and an empty set, or an empty accessor and an empty mutator. And basically what happens when you do this in C# code, it will take what's called a default accessor and a default mutator, which basically kind of does the whole what I did up here for you automatically. It's going to automatically store any information that is taken with the set in a non-accessible variable that you can't see, and then do the same thing with the get. I'm not really sure there's a really strong argument for declaring variables like this. This may be more of just a people converting from Java to C#. It does actually create a hidden variable that stores the information, so there may be some good reasons for that. But honestly, I mean, either way will work. If you were to just put a semicolon at the end here, it's going to behave the same way as if you put in an empty get and an empty set. And you can experiment around with that if you'd like, but you don't need to do that for this class. The last topic that I wanted to touch on has to do more with Visual Studio than it does with C#. For this week's assignment and last week's assignment, pretty much, I mean, you can do that in one file. It's not a whole lot of a terribly hard program, so it's not like this is thousands of lines. But Visual Studio does allow you to put your classes into separate files. If you go up to your project here, you can go to add, and you can add a new class to this project. And we can call that class whatever we want. Let's just call this one course, because we didn't use the course yet. And what that's going to do is it's going to start the process of creating the class course for you. Notice it just put in class course. That's it. If I were to, let's say, make this public, throw a variable on here, I can still access that over here. So you'll notice that Visual Studio is allowing me to do that. Typed it in correctly. And the reason for that is because the namespaces are identical. Namespace is what Visual Studio uses to link things together. So as long as your file has that same namespace, basically when it runs through the compiler, it just takes everything in the namespace week5 and it throws it into one large text file and runs the compile against it. So you can separate out your classes into separate files if that is easier for you to stay organized. You most certainly can, do it within the same file. That's a valid option, but once these classes get to be very, very large, 1,000-line classes, it's kind of easier to keep them in their own separate files, so you're not scrolling all the way through things to find something. Now you will notice if we change the namespace of this class, and then I go back here, it does error out. And that's because it's not in the same namespace anymore. Set it back, and boom, we're in business again. So, like I said earlier, this week's assignment, all you have to do is take last week's assignment. If you had problems with last week's assignment, go ahead and fix those problems. You should have gotten comments from me if there was anything wrong or anything that you needed to change. But clean it up and add the constructors to your classes and turn that back in as assignment 5. Again, if there's anything that's unclear to you or anything that you have questions on, feel free to post in the I Need Help forum. Also, if there's anything specific that you want me to go over in a video, feel free to shoot me an email or post a message and let me know that, hey, I really need to see this again, or I really need to see this because I didn't understand, what you were talking about. Feel free to do that, and I'll be happy to create a video for you and post it up there. That's all for tonight. Have a good week.